Hello and welcome to another late night at the drawing board. Tonight I want to go over action planning and planning an action sequence and how to keep multiple characters clear when doing your visual storytelling. I always like to scribble my way to find what I'm looking for in terms of the groupings and the shapes. And here in these early thumbnails you can see where I'm starting to think that out, and even though these are very tiny drawings, I know eventually I have to get these thumbnails to work. So it doesn't make sense to try and rough out the whole page in its actual format size, which is roughly 10 inches by 13 and a half, I think the book is. It's a really large format book. I have those old Disney books from the 50s, and Peter Pan, Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty, and they're just these gorgeous large format books. The paper quality isn't the greatest, but the artwork, of course, is stunning. It's on a matte finish, so what we did was actually upgrade that. So for Tiki Trouble, I wanted the best paper quality possible and the largest format we can custom make that is close to those old formats from the 50s. And there's a good reason why you don't see many books that size. It is quite costly, but the end result is just a beautiful way to see all the art and really immerse yourself in it. So this was going to be a double page spread, and I knew there was going to be a lot of action that had to be planned out, and trying to figure out where our main characters would be, and also looking at silhouettes. Trying to keep silhouettes when working with a large group of characters is really a challenge, because you have multiple appendages and pieces and heads and things that are breaking the horizon line. And for this particular battle sequence, we also were dealing with a lot of scale challenges. So I had some scale challenges of, well, some of the villains' henchmen are really huge, and some of the hero characters are really tiny because they're Menahune. And so there's a lot of complications there in terms of how to figure this all out. And also I'm always trying to find depth within the scene. Even though our medium is really flat, it's not technically 3D, but we want to try and make it as deep a space as possible. The other important part is when you're planning out an action sequence like this with so many multiple characters, and I've thumbnailed it out and trying to figure out all the little pieces, it's also to be very aware of, okay, well, where is our content text bodies going to be? Or can we move them around, and how can we make them work? It's always a really neat process to try and figure out the vignetting of the shapes, and sometimes you'll see me just put in a bold shape. Many times that bold shape is representative of, that's the window of where I'm going to work this scene into. But even the shape of that window, I want it to be kind of interesting and artistic and appealing. And whenever you have a double page spread like this on such a large format, is there a way that we can really take advantage of that? And maybe we can, visually take that across the page, but I also need places for spot illustrations. So I have to be careful about where to guide the viewer's eye so that essentially they don't lose the rhythm of what the storytelling is. When I started this page, it wasn't very much fun because it was a lot of brain work and just kind of pushing the line, sculpting the line, pushing things around, constantly lassoing and trying to find, okay, well, I need this character to be here. That's not a strong enough pose. I need more negative space. I need more real estate on the page. It was really quite complicated. Even though it's hard to tell because obviously this is a speed drawing, it takes me a while to really kind of figure everything out. Also, I'm juggling a lot of other things, so I'm doing a page in and around everything else that's going on. But it is really neat to still get a sense of the evolution of the page and the evolution of the thought process of how this grouping may work, where it works in regards to the text body, and also just the overall framing of each image. So there's a little BTS, or behind the scenes, of how that scene got planned out. Once I have it kind of all roughed in and I know kind of where the pieces are going, then I could pick the pen that I want to use. In this particular book, I wanted a kind of a rougher line, and once I go in for that, I can really start to tie things down. You can see that, oh, well, he's kind of changing the shape. I'm changing the shape quite a bit because obviously I'm using the thumbnails and my rough pass to just get me closer to not just what the model will be, but closer to what the pose will be, closer to what the scale will be, the shapes, everything from hands to where the arm positions are, the expressions, so that I typically do things about 3 times sometimes more, as you can see, but it is all in an effort to try and get closer to what you really want. And it's kind of sad because in reality, you're never totally pleased as an artist. You always want to keep going back, you want to keep refining, but you got to move forward. You got to let it go. It achieves the purpose you wanted, and you have to move on. And it's kind of a double entendre for even the title of this, if we're talking about action planning, because a big part of this was getting this book done, getting this labor of love done, and it took a while. And there was a lot of challenges. Not just you have work. This is outside of work. This is one of our own properties. So it's being self-funded, and you're trying to find a way to get it done, and you want it to be the best reflection possible of what you're aiming for. So it's never going to be perfect, but it's going to be the best that you can do, and you have to set parameters. And I think that's really important for any personal project or any in-studio project. You have to just get it done. And you want to get it done because you want to move on to the next one. And that's the whole goal. As an artist, you're always busy with creativity, and your mind is always going. And if you're a visual storytelling artist, you have a lot of stories to tell, and you really want to get them out. So, sometimes a little bit more complicated, like Tiki Trouble. Sometimes a little bit simpler. We did one called Buccaneers not too long ago. But the goal is to constantly try and produce and get your creativity out there. So it's kind of neat to look back at, the process of this drawing. It kind of helps me know, it's like, okay, when I first started this double page spread, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to find the ending of this thing in terms of how am I going to get done? When can I actually say, okay, move on to the next spread? It's just when you start something that's very complicated, it's hard to see the end. But with each step that you take, obviously you're getting closer, and it's baby steps. For us, Tiki Trouble is actually a screenplay, and we took the screenplay and I streamlined it down to about 60 pages for this large format visual storytelling book. But in reality, each one of those steps is an accomplishment in some way. So you have to find the small chapters to get to the whole book, I guess. Basically what I'm saying is, each page is such a challenge because of all the external forces that are keeping you from completing your art. The beauty is with each completed page, you are closer to the goal. In this case was the finished book. And same thing with a film. With each completed scene, you're closer to the completion of that sequence. With each completed sequence, we're closer to the completion of our film. And I just have to constantly put myself in that mindset, because many times when you're deep in it, it's just really hard because you're doing this late at night. You've already done a whole day of drawing for your regular studio work and your client work. And, we have an independent studio, so there's multiple clients, there's multiple pieces. And then now it's like, oh, it's late at night. Now let's work on our own stuff. And it's hard to muster all that. But it's really important because you know that there is an end goal if I just keep inching forward. The hardest part is when you're in the middle of that bridge and you're too far from where you started and you're really far from where you need to end. And it's like, dang it. It's like, I just got to keep going somehow. And it's very, very important to have a supportive group that you work with. We have a very tight little nucleus of creatives, and it's great to kind of support each other, inspire each other, lift each other up, and try and say, listen, just keep going, or to give feedback. It's a way to kind of help you just to keep moving, keep moving, keep moving. And you really want to be around positive people, because it's very easy to give up. It's really hard to keep going. It's really hard to say, change that. It's really hard to say, well, I can make it better. Let me give it one more shot. That's where the challenge is, right? Because you don't want to keep on going back that it never gets done. And we are all guilty of that. And I'm just trying to break my own habits like that in order to get more art out, in order to get more of these stories out, in order to get more of these adventures out. I knew this page was also going to be very effects heavy, so there'd be a lot of lightning and different things coming from the villain. So I knew it was going to be driven by light. The other light challenge was essentially the fact that they're on this atoll out in the Pacific, which is basically just a little island that was left over from a volcano. But we have some lava still here, and we want to use that also. That's a big part of our story. So I have to think about in terms of, okay, well, we're getting some light obviously coming from the lava. We wanted to make it feel really, really hot, but yet the villain is also casting a lot of light from the lightning that he's generating. It just adds to another layer or another onion skin challenge to this thing in terms of, okay, I'm still trying to play with light over dark and dark over light, but also trying to be cognizant of what are the light generating sources as well. Well, I hope you've enjoyed another behind-the-scenes look at what it was like making Tiki Trouble. I hope you pick up the book. It's in multiple formats. The really large format one is kind of a limited edition. It's called the Special Edition. But if you can't get that one, the other ones, which are still kind of a nice size, they're 8.5 by 11, and those are available at Barnes & Noble and Amazon Online, and those are for half the price of the Special Edition, because the Special Edition is really, it's kind of a coffee table book. But most importantly, I hope as an artist this is inspiring to you. You've learned something. You get to see some of my own processes, and I don't have it all figured out. I'm constantly learning. Hopefully it's given you some insight to how this project was made, but most importantly, hopefully you found something really good out of it for your own creative storytelling, or for your own art, or for your own artistic process. So thank you. I hope you've enjoyed this, and till next time, stay safe and draw on.